The very first step for paper weaving is creating your loom. And the way that we're going to create our loom is by cutting on the dotted lines. And that's going to open it up so that we can weave paper in and out. This first step is the most important step. If you rush the step of cutting, all the other steps that come after it are going to be way more difficult. So you want to really take your time with this very first step. The first thing we need to do is fold our paper in half, and I'm going to really look and make sure that both of my corners are matched up exactly. And then I'm going to use one hand, and I'm going to hold my paper still, and then with my other hand I'm going to fold. Because we want the paper to stay even while we cut, we're going to use clips to hold that paper together. And I'm starting with the clips on the two outside parts because the very first thing I want to do is cut this line, this dotted line that goes all the way to the end. I'm going to cut that all the way to the end. And then I can do the same on this line right here. It goes all the way to the end, so I can cut that piece all the way off. For all of our other lines, those lines stop at the solid line at the top of the paper. So I need to make sure, I can move this clip over now. Actually, I'm gonna start on the right-hand side. I think that'll be easier for me. I'm gonna make sure that I stop my scissors right at that solid line. I'm really taking my time. I'm cutting very slowly, and when I get to that solid line, I'm making sure that I stop right on the line. The more I take my time for this step, the easier it's going to be to actually weave my design. I'm also cutting with the inside part of my scissors because I have more control. If I start cutting with this part of my scissors, I'm not going to be able to control it as well, and my line won't be as straight. Now that I've gotten to the clip, I can go ahead and scoot both of my clips down, and I would keep cutting. Eventually, like when I get to here, when I've cut all of those parts and I need to cut these parts right here, I'll move my clip all the way to this end and I can cut the middle spaces. And then when I get to this part and I'm ready to cut this part, I'm gonna move my clip to here, right in the middle, and then I can cut the very end. Now that I'm done cutting all of my lines, and I wanna point out that I made sure to cut not just to the black line, but even if it went like a little tiny bit past it, that's okay, because you have to fit a whole strip of paper in that first row. So if you stop cutting like here, you're not gonna be able to fit the paper in. If you cut a little tiny, like a millimeter extra, you'll still be able to fit in your paper. Since I'm done cutting all my lines, I can go ahead and open up my artwork. And now I have a wonderful loom. All of these different spaces are open. I'll be able to weave paper in and out through my loom. Before we start weaving, I want to show you an example of why it's so important to take your time and use the clips while you're cutting. This first loom that I did, I didn't use the clips. I just cut it. And on the side that I was cutting, it looked great. Right? I cut right on the lines. It looked like everything was going really good. There's plenty of space for me to weave my pattern. But then when you open it up, you can see that because those papers weren't held together very well, it's not on the line anymore. So that would make it show up a little bit differently, especially like this one. That wasn't even close to the line. So that's why it's so important to take your time, use those clips while you're cutting, and make sure that you're cutting all the way, even just a little bit past that line is okay.